And welcome back to the Quick Focus Blueprint program. And before we get started, I want to thank you for showing up and for listening to today's lesson. And why am I emphasizing the word listening is because that's what we're going to talk about in today's lesson. I want to take the next few minutes to really sensitize yourself to how we're listening to people day to day. I mean, when it comes to your focus, do you sometimes tune people out? Even when you're talking to your best friend, maybe you're talking to a coworker, maybe you're talking to a client, maybe you're talking to your boss. I mean, do you lose your attention when people are talking to you? And so why does your brain wander sometimes too easily? And what can you do to keep it focused on the conversation at hand? So let me give you a number of really quick tips on how to focus on somebody through active listening. So you don't lose your focus when you're trying to listen to a speaker on stage, or you're listening to your professor lecture, or you're having a conversation with somebody at work, or maybe you're just out talking to strangers or even your closest friends, so you can keep your attention, your concentration, sharpen your focus, and really be there for them. Okay, a couple of really quick ideas here. First of all, I would say don't beat yourself up. You know, if you lose focus, again, studies in self-compassion say don't be hard on yourself, be understanding, and that you're human. It doesn't mean you don't want to fix it, but don't beat yourself up. And so kindness goes a long way. So keep that in mind. Another thing I would say is when your mind drifts during a conversation, it's certainly okay for you to ask the person to repeat what he or she just said. There's nothing wrong with that, because if you're really seeking to understand and then to be understood, like the book talks about, the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, seek first to understand, then to be understood. It's okay to ask questions. And so you could ask with confidence. You know, your request is usually going to be perceived as a compliment, like you're a real listener. And the other person thinks what he or she said could be something important, and they'll say it again. And it happens. And so we're all understanding. Engage with the person who's speaking and engage your brain and ask if you missed something. Another thing I would point out is make sure that when you're listening that you do the best you can to control distractions. If you feel like an emotion is distracting you from what is being said, acknowledge that emotion. And we talked about this also, you know, when we're talking about negative self-talk and anxiety, but just notice that feeling and just return back to the speaker. Give your attention back to the speaker, and you could deal with these other issues later. So try to be present as much as you can. So for example, what I mean by that is distractions can be external or internal. I'm talking about internal distractions here. Like for example, you get hungry, or you get just tired of sitting, or let's say you have a migraine and you tell yourself you'll deal with this, but just do the best you can to stay present. You know, or if it's internal, we're talking about internal distractions, but let's say it's external. If you're in an environment and maybe there's construction or some remodeling going on in the office next to you or in the apartment next to you, or maybe something's distracting you, like it's really cold in the room and it's bothering you so you can't pay attention, be able to control the environment as much as you can. Finally, the last tip that I could give you right now is something that is learn how to bring yourself in the presence. What I mean about being present specifically, one of the tips that I do to get present is, let's say my mind wanders somewhere, and really what could bring you more in the moment, in the now, if you will, is to do something physical. What do I mean by that? I mean something like wiggling your toes. Wiggling your toes inside of your shoes will make you more present. And you're like, Jim, that's the ultimate brain hack, wiggle your toes. But think about it. When you're in the moment, and I'm talking about whether it's for active listening or anything else, if you want to bring yourself back in the moment, just do this right now. Start wiggling your toes. Bring your conscious attention to your toes and just wiggle them. And notice you're here, right? You're here in this place. And what time is it? It's now. But you could obviously pay attention better to the speaker, but just get yourself present and doing something simple, whether it's you grit your teeth, right? Or you do something else to help you get present. And finally, let me add this bonus, a quick tip, if you will. When in doubt, hear. And I want you to remember HEAR. If you want to be a more focused listener, remember this. The H stands for halt. When you want to listen, come to a complete stop. Pause what you're doing, any internal self-talk, and how you're going to respond so you can be present. And you can free your mind and pay attention to the person you're with, to the speaker's words, tone of voice, facial expression, and body language. The E in here stands for empathy. What does it mean to be empathetic? And what I'm thinking about is like emotional IQ, right? Imagine yourself in the other person's shoes, because you have these mirror neurons we talked about. You have the ability to empathize, and maybe you're thinking like, oh yeah, if I'm the other person, I want to be heard, I want to be listened to. And you make an effort to think about where they're coming from and what's their motivation, why are they doing what they do, what do they value, what are their drives. Also, when we're talking about E, it could be empathy, but it also could stand for engagement. Engage with the person, focus on the speaker, face them, ask questions, make eye contact. E could stand for eye contact. The A in here stands for anticipate, and I like this a lot. Anticipate generally involves two things, the state and the strategy. So when I'm thinking about the state of anticipation, it means you're really looking forward to something, right? You remember the time when you really look forward to something and you're really anticipating it? So it's a state. And we talk about all learning is state dependent. And the information combined with emotion becomes a long-term memory. So get in that state of anticipation. Look forward to it. And so you do that by changing your thoughts and changing your body. The other thing I would talk about is anticipate like as if it's a strategy. Based on the content of what the speaker is saying, where are they going with this? What is their end goal? You could also pretend you're going to be tested, and that's a powerful listening strategy, knowing that you're going to be quizzed after going through this. And finally, the R in here stands for review. And what do I mean by review? I mean ponder, reflect on what the speaker is saying, analyze, and you can paraphrase in your own words, in your own mind, or even in the discussion itself with the other listeners or even the speaker, picking up on key points in the conversation. And this is where you remember to use strategies from the kinds of things that we teach in our other programs, like our memory program, where you could how to remember conversations and how to be able to take mental notes without actually having to write them down. So that's where you can integrate some of the other learnings that you have with our other programs. So again, this session is all about how to have better focus while you're having a conversation with somebody, because you don't want to forget what they're saying. You don't want the person to feel like you don't care. So sometimes we tune out people, and it happens to the best of us. But using these strategies right now, what I want you to do is take your favorite quick tip and put it in the comments. Again, it could be either something you just captured from our conversation together, in terms of note taking, or maybe it inspired something else and you could share that new idea with everyone in the community down in the comments. So instead of capturing it, maybe you're creating. So maybe I said something in this conversation that sparked a new idea in terms of how you're going to focus better when you're talking to somebody. So again, put your favorite tip, either one I just mentioned, or maybe it is your tip. Maybe you're already a great listener and you have great focus. We would love to know how you're doing it. So share it in the comments below, and I'll see you tomorrow.